I'm going to start at 6:05. I hope that's okay. That's what I feel like doing. That's one of the things that the We All Feel Like It series can do. So if you feel like reading poetry, you can read. There is quite a community of writers and people that love writing on this campus, but that doesn't mean that if you're not majoring in it or it's not your discipline, you can't be here and you can't do it. I'm giving you the permission. These students here will give you the permission. There is no gate, there is no door. Anyone can come in this room and listen to you read and hopefully read. That's what We All Feel Like It is for. All of my current students who are here now, you will be reading at this podium if you want to, and I hope that I will see you up here. It's a huge joy of mine to teach here, but also to watch students get to write and read in lots of different voices. Many of you, I have seen you do pitches, write white papers, do icebreakers, write poems using Google stuff. But here you are about to read your poems and the things that you've chosen to a room of your classmates and maybe even people live online watching streaming, maybe your parents, maybe my parents. Hi, Mom. My mom loves watching me introduce. No, you're laughing, but it's what she does during dinner. So I'm really excited. This is the first time I've hosted poets from other Philadelphia universities, though many of us that live and work here don't just teach at Penn. We might teach at UArts or more, the Blue Stoop, do lots of different kinds of teaching. I'm really excited to have a poet here from Bryn Mawr, as well as a poet from UArts. There are poets at Temple, there are poets at Drexel, there are poets on the subway, there are poets at the Starbucks right there. I was just talking to one. But we're gonna hear from these 6 poets today. Emma, Dylan, Lucy, Lila, Randy, and Quincy, in that order. And the reading is going on YouTube now, and you can watch it later. Another thing we do here is we archive poets reading their poetry. We have Penn Sound. We've got a team back there recording. That's because we value different kinds of poetry here. And we're going to hear some different kinds of poetry. I didn't say my name. It's Michelle Taransky, and I'm really grateful to be hosting this series here. I started it in Iowa City when I was living there in a different room, and this is a really great room. I've been doing this series here for 13 years through lots of different rooms, lots of different students. I think this podium has always been here. But I'm really excited for tonight, and I'm really grateful for such a huge turnout. And I know lots of students are watching from their beds. And that's another thing you can do, is watch poetry from your bed. Don't let the New York School poets do it all, right? We can do stuff in bed too. All right, so they're gonna read, and then we're gonna have a reception after, which is a huge thing we do at the Writers' House, is we get to talk to the writers about their work and connect over writing or food or cheese. But that's something we didn't get to do for the past few years. And so that's something that is really special, to be sharing food in a dining room with people over poetry. All right, so our first reader is going to be Emma, and then Dylan, Lucy, Lila, Randy, and Quincy. I'll be clapping and crying over there, or probably in the back so you can't see me, but thank you all for coming. There is no poetry community without the poetry community, so I'm really grateful. Thank you, guys.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emma. I'm a junior from LA. I study philosophy. Thank you for being here today, and for Michelle's mom for listening online. This first one is a 2022 take on a Frank O'Hara poem, Adieu to Norman, Bonjour to Joan and Jean-Paul. Yeah. It's called Adieu to Harper, Bonjour to Jules and Celine. It's 6:12 in Philadelphia, and I'm trying to remember the last time I called Cheryl. I gotta call Cheryl. Last time she said to me on the phone, knee slung over the couch, "You'll never believe this. You'll never believe what they have at Trader Joe's now." I wish I were home and sipping coffee in my childhood bed, Harper on the line, dreaming up big plans for the Saturday, but always just taking the dash down Sunset and eating ice cream in parking lots. I guess it was mostly about the dreaming anyway. Yesterday, I watched No Country for Old Men and didn't notice the whole thing had no music until Jules told me so. I was too busy getting lost in the Texas landscape and how far it seemed from that bed on Baltimore where the trolleys come and go all night. Los Angeles seems so far away now, but if you squint, the Rio Grande Valley looks not so different from the San Gabriels. How I miss the palms. When I come back to Pine, Celine and I talk about how Phoebe is dating Paul Mescal, and Hunter is dating Dominic Fike, and Zendaya and Tom are walking hand in hand on our screens. And Celine and I argue about which one is a more ideal menage a trois for gay, mentally ill teenagers online. I guess we're not teenagers anymore, but it's fun to pretend. I wish I were in my bed in Los Angeles instead of in my bed in Philadelphia. It's funny how beds can be so different and totally the same all at once. It's winter and the snow is covering the bricks outside the Herman Herzog house. We are young and happy and sad all the time and talk like therapists in our third floor walk-up. The only thing to do is simply continue. Is that simple? No, it's not simple, but it is the only thing to do. Can you do it? No, but you must try because it is the only thing to do. Blue light fills the living room because we replaced the bulbs and feel like Euphoria characters, sort of. I have a Jules after all, our faces cold from midnight bike rides. But Celine still remembers Jacob's OD and Christian's liver and Holly's rehab visitation room and the time Bill tried to have Mary on a 13-hour flight from Australia, and surely the Pacific was unshaken, but I'm not sure Celine was, and she's not sure either. And surely we shall not continue to be unhappy. We shall be happy, but we shall continue to search for ourselves. Everything seems possible until it isn't. Philadelphia, South Texas, Los Angeles, is it possible, isn't it? I love you for saying yes, though I don't believe it. Thank you. And this one I actually wrote when I was a 17-year-old who was watching her country pass 6-week abortion bans. So imagine her surprise now. And yeah, I thought it was a good time to read it. I'm not religious, but it's about religious guilt. I tried talking to absolution, but all I got was a sore throat. I thought I was talking to absolution, but it was just the stain on the inside of the woodshed from the flood 3 years before. Après moi, le déluge, I guess. At least the mallets and handsaws laughed. I've been writing to absolution, newsprint pleas and blue glass bottles floating down the Harpeth, but my calls go unreturned and watch pots still boil. If the road to absolution is really lined with manuscripts on a bird who chirped in a chapel, is it too late to grow feathers and scream into the halls of the Vatican? Is it enough if holy water drips from my pores or from underneath my cuticles? If this is really absolution, and I'm not just pouring absinthe down the shower drain to quell the sound of my own combustion, why can't I feel the hem of its skirt, or braid its amber hair, or crochet it a blanket called, "I'm sorry for my life until this point"? Who wrote the book and called it good? One summer in Ohio, all the crows dropped dead. Apparently it was the heat, but I think they were after salvation in the sound of the soil churning upon itself, or the thump of the pale horses trotting through the underbrush. I cleansed my soul with Epsom salts and burned all the Plan B, so why does the echo of an angry God still ring in my ears without reply? I'm sorry I walked on the wrong side of the cobblestones to church that Sunday and slept with boys who couldn't spell grace, but if absolution is just around the corner, as they say, I wonder why I still can't taste its consonants on my tongue. Thanks. For something a little bit happier, this one is called Clark Park in Spring. It's about getting older and all the cute kids in the park, so it's called Clark Park in Spring. It's hard sometimes to imagine your life as a series of hours or weekends or kisses in bed. Before you know it, it's April and you're in Clark Park watching the children play. The flowers on the trees and the clouds are so beautiful. It's all so beautiful, you think you might cry, and for the first time, you have someone that you can see as family. It's 2032, you're in West Philly, and you are a cool mom, and they are hot in a dad kind of way. You are explaining how mud works to your daughter while your husband holds her doll, and for a few minutes, you are the subject of wonder for two young girls sitting on a bench on shrooms, and then you remember that's you. But let's pretend a while. It's hard sometimes to imagine your life as a series of hours or weekends or kisses in bed. Before you know it, it's April, and you're in Clark Park watching the children play. Thank you. Next up is Dylan.
How would you know? I'm just making a small intervention. Sorry, swerve. Quincy's going to read third Soft swerve. Here comes Dylan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dylan, and I'm going to be reading a few poems for y'all today. Two of them are about how I really like nature, and the other two are about how I'm kind of bad at driving, so that'll be a fun dichotomy. Okay, the first one is called Node. There was no breath within the earth when it formed, just like how the last Pyrenean ibex, Celia, was killed by a falling tree in northern Spain. Bones crushed beneath 2 tons of wood, but I imagine most of the weight must have come from the leaves, their clogging, turning nature. 3 years later, she is cloned from DNA samples stolen from her dying breaths. Celia's clone died in her 7th minute due to a lung defect, and maybe if the dust in this world could settle for just a minute, the clone would have lived. But the Pyrenean ibex went extinct twice instead. And we don't even know the type of tree that fell on Celia, laden with snow. Rotted, knowing it killed the last of a species. What a weight that must have been. And the next one. The next one is called Hiding is Like That One Time You Got Stuck on an Exit Ramp in Jalapa, South Carolina, and all you could do was look for constellations through the sunroof. That one could be the Big Dipper, and is it still Leo season? You watch cars race into highway darkness, and when one finally drives by, all you can do is look at your reflection in the tinted window. You flash before your eyes. And by the time you remember to check on the stars, they're shrouded in clouds. Everyone needs some time to themselves. You heard that somewhere. Everyone needs to feel hidden. Later, a state trooper picks you up, and you need gas, and he needs to stop at an accident. There's a man on the ground. He can't move, and a woman brings him water, wading through thousands of thawing chicken legs. They spill from the crumpled freezer truck. They glitter in siren light, scatter across the highway. Like this night, they are endless. The smell alone begs for anonymity. You wonder about conflicting interests, and is it selfish, wanting to get home? The state trooper who picks you up gives you a fake name. He begs to. Confiscated IDs line the ceiling of his car, pinned up like stars. This one is called That One William Carlos Williams Poem, and it is derived linguistically from The Red Wheelbarrow by William Carlos Williams. Okay, That One William Carlos Williams Poem. I'm picking up beached seashells, so if I find a sand dollar, tell the jellyfish I owe them much more than they think I do. Tell them life depends on pearls and the seaweed stuck between our toes, upon which live ghost crabs, who I wish would pinch my toenails. A second of pain, and then red blood splotches in the sand, forming clouds who wheel around the sun, and all I want is to see the little crabs burrow under layers of sea salt, and finally be happy, or at least glazed in shimmering sunscreen, fading in the water, in and out with the sunlight, in and out of sight. Maybe they're here, or maybe it's just rain splashing into seashells, cupping little pools of water. And is it stupid of me to think there's anything stupid in this world? Anything simple in this world? Besides the coral behind my eyes, the sand beneath my fingernails, the seaweed tangled in my hair, I guess there isn't anything besides blinding white light from the sun. White like clouds, white like eggshells, white like chickens under the waves, feathers intertwined in sand dollars and seagrass. And then the last one is called A Letter to the Man in the Car I Almost Hit. Driving home from the orthodontist this morning, I'm thinking about the way birds fly while peaches are ripe, and dew-damp and eager, and you can't help but let the juice explode inside your mouth. And have you ever seen a hummingbird suckling its feeder? As if she's trying to get out every last ounce of sugar water, as if she's beating her wings so fast they're stopping time, as if all she wants is the sun in her feathers for 1 second longer. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't always know what's directly in front of me, like cars and window screens. I'm saying walking home feels easier than walking away. And once an owl flew by my mom's Toyota so fast it looked like a thrown snowball. Blur of white and dirt specks because perfect snowballs don't exist, not here anyway. You'd know, wouldn't you? Where they are, how many hands made them. Maybe I've got it all wrong and you are the snow. You're each flake and you're landing and I hope you melt quickly. I hope you never have to come back to this place because even though I've never been in a car accident, black ice is still my greatest fear. Sliding, wheels turning, going nowhere. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So today I'm going to be reading a bunch of food-based poetry because that's what I'm working on right now. And this first piece is from 2019, and I think it describes my style of writing really well, while also just being about how much I love butter. It's called Salt Your Butter. So why does unsalted butter exist? Who would ever reach for unsalted butter when you could have salted butter? Melty, delicious, salted butter. Prepared, refined, and salted. My poetry may be unsalted butter. Unfinished and unseasoned, or edited, or changed. Just spread on the page exactly the way it was originally churned, before the salt. So why would anyone reach for unsalted butter? I sure wouldn't. I like salted butter. So this next poem is about bacon grease and anger. It's so cool how sorry can cancel out so much. Have you ever let yourself just be really fucking angry? Like the kind of anger you feel behind your ribs that makes your skin itchy and the arch of your feet ache? People call it boiling with anger, like water boiling over. But for me, it's bacon in a hot frying pan kind of anger. Grease flying everywhere, a sizzle and a crack that makes you jump. If you know how to make bacon, you save the grease for cooking with later in a metal container. And if you don't know how to make bacon, maybe you pour the bacon grease down the drain and you fuck up your pipes eventually. So if anger is a hot bacon pan for me, then I think we people say sorry like parrots. It's a phrase we learn from being repeated around us. Everybody knows how to say it. Nobody knows what it means. Squawk. I'm sorry. Polly want a cracker, or whatever parrots say. I'm sorry, again. I'm so close to tossing that damn parrot right into the bacon grease. Like, shut the fuck up already. The next one's kind of a choose your own adventure. How much time do I have left?
Read some more poems, Quincy.
Okay. You'd really like the way I make my coffee. If you like sugar cream and artificial flavorings with a dash of coffee. Someone or myself might say that this directly reflects my stereotypical identity as a bleached, read fake, blonde, and spray-tanned girl from New England. Luckily, most American coffee chains roll out pumpkin spice lattes as early as August, and since this is my favorite of all artificial coffee flavors, I support the premature season change even when it is not even jeans and sweater weather. The real innovators here, though, Sunny Days Ice Cream Shop in Stamford, Connecticut. They make pumpkin ice cream beginning in August, and they run it through December. A while ago, when I was still in terms with my dad, I would head to Stamford once a month to visit him. That's why I was in Stamford, Connecticut. The reason I went to Sunny Days for pumpkin ice cream was because my dad's chef, Danielle, loved that pumpkin ice cream. I was terrified of my stepmother and awkward to my 92-year-old old man, and I would spend every single day with Danielle. Danielle was from New Jersey, and she was a very fancy, classically trained chef who my father hired because his wife cannot cook and specifically requested he bring a very fancy, classically trained chef to cook in their kitchen for her. I never really understood the point of them hiring a chef, financially, or because my father lost most of his sense of taste after a car crash in '06. Accordingly, his meals were dominated by textures and extreme flavors, his favorite being extreme sweetness, and this coupled very nicely with his love of the texture of rhubarb pie. But Danielle moving in was good news for me, so I don't question it anymore. When Danielle moved in, another outsider joined the house. someone I could spend time with those 2-ish plus days a month I went to stay with my father. Danielle lived across the street with her 2 dogs, Effie and Porter. Porter was an old corgi who used to be my favorite, but eventually he bit the tip of her index finger off, and she had to stop being a chef for a while, and I had to stop calling Porter my favorite dog. She always said she had to stop cooking after that incident because she could not use her knives like she used to. The point is, Danielle moved in, and I was saved. I've always woken up early, and when I was younger, I'd wake up even earlier, and I was so scared to leave my room in the morning at my dad's house. God forbid I went to the kitchen or living room and had to face interacting with my stepmother on my own. I could not bear it. However, my room was nearly above the kitchen, and every morning I would wait until I could hear Danielle open the door to the main house to start work at 7:45. When I heard the lock click, I would scamper to the kitchen to greet Danielle like a Yorkshire Terrier puppy. While Danielle would go through her prep work, I would talk to her about what I thought her dogs did at night or whatever Alton Brown made on TV that week. She would let me have the first waffles or whatever breakfast was requested by my stepmom and her girls that day. I'd spend the whole day in the kitchen with Danielle, sometimes plopped on the counter, sometimes sitting on the tile floor, occasionally underfoot, quite literally. She would come up for entertainment for me. My favorite was the instant pudding. She would make a large batch of instant pudding, like really thick, and fill a piping bag for me, and I would pipe onto parchment-lined baking sheets, practicing letters or flowers. Then I would take the pudding off the parchment and slop it back into the bag. It was a really messy cycle. I love piping pudding. Danielle taught me a lot more than pudding. She taught me how to julienne, and that lying only makes people never want to trust you again. My stepsisters only ate grilled chicken and raw vegetables with the occasional intermission of balked mac and cheese. She made homemade mac and cheese once, but my dad and I were the only one to eat it because the girls didn't like it and my stepmom was on a diet. But Danielle would always give me some of the adult food she was making for my dad's parties. Nothing crazy. My stepmom hated stuffing, but it was my favorite part of Thanksgiving, and Danielle liked it too, so every Thanksgiving she'd make a small pan of stuffing for us to have before my dad's Thanksgiving dinner. I think that's where the pumpkin ice cream started. It was when I was visiting my dad for Thanksgiving. Danielle and I got it on our way back from the grocery store. I would beg her to take me on any errands and not to leave me behind in the house. She would say pumpkin in a really humorous way. Pumpkin. And she'd say we were going to get pumpkin ice cream. And I would crack up as a 12-year-old. I loved it. The best part about Danielle was that she never pushed me out of that kitchen, even though I was probably more underfoot than a rat. And the best part about the kitchen is my stepmother never entered it. First, as I mentioned, she could not cook, so there's really no point. And second, she had an irrational fear of stainless steel bowls. The second best part about Danielle, besides that she always let me stay in the kitchen, was that she kept a massive set of stainless steel bowls right on the counter. And I swear to God she did it to scare off the evil spirit that was my stepmother, for both our sakes. Eventually, Danielle quit. She told me she had to, and it had nothing to do with me. Apparently, taking shit from my stepmother was worse than working in a professional kitchen. But she said a really nice farewell by buying me a pint of pumpkin ice cream. I do not go back to Stamford to see my dad anymore, but I would drive up or through Stamford to stop at Sunny Days and get some pumpkin ice cream, if it's in season. And I love a pumpkin spice latte.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucy Frank and I attend Bryn Mawr College, so I have a couple of short poems for you today. Rubber Brother. One day when I was very small, my parents brought home a rubber baby and displayed it on the mantle. It looked like a large eraser, so I was scared of touching it. They said there was an art exhibit where babies could be bought from vending machines. My baby brother was a bit different. He didn't learn to talk till real late and cried all the time, and I started to hate my rubber brother for being too soft and breakable. What if he snapped because I hugged him too tight? What if he fell off the mantle and never bounced back? What if he melted one winter day, fire burning bright, rubber dripping onto the floor? Florist 4. Blue tips on brilliant poppies. Nose in a jar, grief to a table. It is easier to go somewhere when one is right below life, under the static of river. Huge eyelids and the nose in its jar. Few existing bones probably look like human. In eerie glowing drinks, salacious fruity flowers try to plant themselves. Can I stomach what they hold? Amy, you say you slipped in the mud and are sinking. Grabbing at the branches that dangle in our eyes as we walked through the town last night, looking for an out where blank people with their breasts out pretend to watch sports. You say you want more than anything to be a blank man. You broke up with your boyfriend, I smiled. You drank too much and spent your money on children's toys. You showed me a picture of your home. You want to go there right now. Last month, you killed lobsters for a living. It brought you men and money. You spent time in New York State like I did. It brought you Lyme's disease and tastes of slipping peace. Day by the stream. I'm watching my friend drink from the stream because she feels like a stream. I feel like one too. We hear wood creaking. She tells me a door has opened. We go in. Into the part of the woods where the trees become thick, hairy legs, and the rocks are upholstered with a fabric that looks just like moss. I tell her I never want to leave here, and I never did. Because when I disintegrated, I left some parts of myself behind on purpose as a trick, so that she couldn't leave me. Transposed from Scribble. Live the dust. Hair of this page that Lucy made at her house with the bald person who transcends body. Her description of my father. Lucy moves with yellow. I wish I could put this into a glass jar. I wish I could dig my fingers into her iris. To wish is to leave space for breath, wonder, world. And yellow is to love, even into black. This is a poem about death. I've learned my lesson, and I understand what it is to lose, and watch a yellow afternoon pass in an instant that you thought would be an eternity, and to cry in the grass that held us both. Thank you.
I'm Lila, and I feel a little like that made me emotional. Lucy's reading. But there's so many good poets here, and it's so wonderful to hear everyone. I'm just so happy to be here too. So I'm going to read a prose piece first, which is crazy and outlandish for me because it's like not something I write usually, but I want to share it with everyone. It's titled Vechli, which I'm not pronouncing right. Vechli. I do the dishes every few days. It's meditative, and I drink a lot of tea. So the mugs rack up. I don't mind it. It's so quick and so easy. While the faucet water runs hot over my hands, it opens a channel through which I swim. I remember as I swim. This is another meditative motion. When I lived at the Stricter's house, I did the dishes for them every few days. It took a while. The deep sink filled with a dozen mugs in one day. More than that, the meals that were cooked meant that of all the pots, pans, trays, plates, utensils, bowls, and glasses had to be washed. I could never understand why they didn't just put all the food on one plate if it meant less of a hassle for me. It seemed a fair enough trade, though. They let me into their home. They spoke in German half of the time and never clued me in. It was understandable, though, because that was their language. I did pick up one word, although I learned that I never understood the real meaning. Wirklich is what May would say every time her mom asked her to do the dishes. The kitchen was archaic. The stove was broken, so we had to light it with a lighter. There was no microwave because of microwaves, radioactivity, or something like that. Dinner would be accompanied by candles at times. It got so dark in the winter. I liked a stone house like that. I liked Carrie's cooking and co-op foods. It felt fancy, and there was enough room for me to grow a depression so lofty that it hung to the high ceiling above the stairs. Sometimes I would run into it, in Hannah's bedroom, in the shallow walk-in closet, or in the cellar-like basement where I did my laundry. May told me she loved me. not in the way I know love between friends now, with months leading up to it, even within such close quarters. Not through acts of care that become so effortless that I breathe in a bit of love as I do the dishes. May told me she was in love with me, but as a friend. That our friendship was so immediate, it had to encompass everything. We became friends in that sort of way, with no room or space or time to separate each other, and all of a sudden I slept in the bedroom beneath her. I washed their dishes with diligence, because I am determined within every task, especially the most menial ones. I wanted her parents to catch up to loving me too. I only broke a box of mason jars. I was only told many times to never touch Nathaniel's antique glasses. My feelings crawled up and sat in them. I only broke them a few times. I had it together. May and I went swimming in the summer with ceviche and zinc sunscreen. Conversations flowed, we raced, and then she held me above the water and I closed my eyes. I could float here forever in your hands, or at least for a while. Summer was flowery that first time. The second summer, I tried so hard, please know I tried hard, to emulate our old love. I swam in the pool. I ran through the streets. I drove us to the beach. I hated myself for that ticket before they could. I did the dishes and stared blankly through the window. It was bright, but I knew that it was bound to get darker. I started to sleep until 11 a.m., very late to them. I washed my dishes. Sometimes I left an extra one in the sink. Nathaniel was upset about that, mostly that I had forgotten to vacuum again. When I vacuumed, the sound sucked me up. I could not hear myself think. I hated it. I laid outside to read after. I was swarmed by mosquitoes. My blood reposited throughout the garden, a sort of staking my claim. Although I didn't know yet that I only had a few more months in that shrunken room, I went inside, too itchy. When I caught up to my depression, I found it kissing a girl who was bound to hurt me. Well, maybe that was my joy. It felt as if I had left my sadness inside the empty wine bottles in my room with the corks missing, and I had traveled all the way without it to 22nd Street. While I was gone, it got out and did a little prance around the house. Carrie and Nathaniel and May saw, and I wasn't there to defend myself for such an ugly sin. I was ashamed. It was my secret. It came into my bed with me at night. I didn't know that it followed me around during the day. I thought I had stored it perfectly, but it had started to leak into the bowls I washed, leaving them dirty with a distinct smell. You can smell that? Wirklich? I left. Or I was kicked out. It was for my attempt to erase the stench with my kiss on 22nd Street. I wasn't allowed the room anymore, but I left most of my things there. I collected them months later with friends who had me sit by them when they washed their home's dishes. Don't touch that. You don't know my dishwasher system, they would say. I like washing the dishes, and I suppose I'll like it a little bit less this year when there's more. But they will be my dishes, and there will be no stench. If my sadness finds a way into the suds, at least we can wash together. It caught up to me, and every day now I have to say, this is how I feel. We loved each other irresponsibly, I realize now, as I stare into this mug with a cat printed on it. I was in deep. Wirklich? Thanks, guys. Okay, I'm going to read a lighter poem because I made myself do that. I was like, I can't read another sad one. Okay. This is called, I'm actually so torn between two. Okay. This one's called Unwarranted Apology. Unwarranted Apology. The summer was dry. Dead bugs collected in between my window and screen. Moths circled me, nuzzling in my leg hairs. July began at 3 a.m. when I heard the leaves rustling outside your window. There is a blue building that tries to melt with the sky. I hadn't known about it before, never even seen that gorge, until you taught me how to stretch worms from the glistening earth. 19th summer came with the third revelation of ignorance. This time less about the nature of things, rather about myself, asking you to have a Coke with me, or flipping open and shut the windows over and over. Tiger lilies grow next to wild parsnip, and I pick both for the bouquet. My negligence, my lack of knowledge, could have caused a burn, and this is why. I'm sorry I clogged your toilet. My head lost between embroidered pillows. I think I've learned to live in the moment until you reread the movement of my legs to me. The mind gets used to an absence of presence, but I want to be nowhere but here. Another one? Okay, I'll read one more. It's very, very similar thematically. Redbud. The last days of summer gift me the inheritance of becoming a bad poet. I ask that I am no longer shown kneeling over a toilet, gripping the bathroom sink, wailing and spitting over loss. Erase my avoidance, my only partially with you. I picture myself no longer buried snugly in the dirt, but walking my road at dusk, accepting that I am loved by another. Every leaf shapes itself after the redbud. Every rock rubs into a circle. We dance near the speakers. You don't tell me that you need headphones, and I admit to a stranger that moms are hot. I begin to sleep naked for my sake. My cat hates to hang around. It's late August, and I cry from my womb because of a cheesy song and my adoration of self. I become the vessel of love. Listening without fear to the sad songs we had shared, I marked that I no longer want to distinguish the boy and girl in my relationships. The smell of clean laundry in my parents' room will always be sown with her, but my love of skirts has finally been reciprocated. I commit to myself gentleness, to follow the paths of hopping toads, to only pee a bit on those who squeeze too tight. I dance in a black slip, and every morning I lift myself from where I lay. Did you know bees can smell fear? A T-Rex's tooth was the size of a banana? That on wet nights you can pull earthworms the length of your arm from the soil? And that I moved on?
Hi, everybody. I'm Randy. I'm the one from UArts. I do not consider myself a poet, literally whatsoever, but Michelle told me I was coming and I was reading, so here I am coming and reading. This is just basically my entire past year through my poetry that I don't write. The first one is untitled. I've never felt more alone, but I'm starting to like it. My bed has never been bigger, and I stretch to the ends just because I can. Basking in my own soft and lonely space, it is all for me for the first time in ages. I fall asleep to my own rhythm and the sounds of a purring cat on the edge of my bed. I wake up and I make art and sometimes forget to think about anything that is not in front of me. I water myself and grow despite the conditions. My vines twisting up and out and reaching heights I never saw feasible. Soon I will fill up the room and then the world. This next one is called Pay Attention, written from a man who talked to me in New York City one time. A man asked me once if anyone around here pays any attention. I wish I could tell him yes with sincerity, but I knew he knew better. I don't think so, I said with all the honesty I had. He walked away, leaving me in the streets of people who don't pay any mind. People around me don't seem to take in as much as the world as they should. They've been here longer, years, maybe decades. I guess they don't think they have as much as see anymore, walking the same streets every day. Respectfully, I disagree. There's always something new if you look for it. Yesterday's bus tickets, a long dead possum consumed to hundreds of pests, finally a good meal, a stranger's flowing dress, a child waving through a bus window, a cleverly placed art installation, a woman rushing to hug her lover on a train platform, a cloud sprinting across the sky, and the sun melting slowly behind the skyscrapers. It can be missed in a millisecond. You just have to pay attention. This next one gets a little bit spicy. I'm so sorry. It's only like 3 lines, but I'm so sorry. I'm literally so sorry. All right. This one's called I Hope You See Me. I wonder what your bed feels like without me in it, because I still sleep on the right side of mine, expecting you to be there when I turn over, but it's empty and it's silent, and I hug my covers tighter as I try to fall asleep with my heart burning. Do you still think of me when you masturbate? I can't help but what I imagine in moments of pleasure, and I wonder where your mind goes. To my hips that you love, to the small of my back, My breath in your ear. As you stroke, your eyes shut, but I hope you see me. I still see you. I feel your touch in the buzz of my own simulated pleasure, and it never feels as good as you, but you are not an option anymore. Except when my eyes are closed, and I can pretend you're still going to be there when I wake up. All right. Two more. This last, second to last one is called Heavy. Why do the days feel longer when they're not with you? I miss you with every hour and want to feel your weight against mine. Like it was for so long, I was not ready to be ripped away from you and the things we built together. I was so fond of you in every facet, and I don't think any time would have been enough for you to leave me feeling satisfied in your absence. Right, and then this is the last one. This is also untitled, but this one is happy. So, I used to avoid my mirror. Now I look at them and pose. I can hold myself within my body and feel love burn through my hands. My body has carried and held me as I do it, and it deserves to be loved. As softly and as tenderly as I kiss a lover, with the pride of a roaring crowd. But it's easy to celebrate my body, and there is more beauty than ever in the bodies of everyone I see on the streets, walking proudly.
I know you guys know that I know a lot of stuff, but oh my God, I just learned a lot more stuff. You guys teach me so much. I've heard those poems before. That was really beautiful. We've learned a lot. There's a lot of stuff to do in bed, to be alone, to be together. But now we're gonna have a reception in the back. Talk to the poets, talk to me. There's a new poet who teaches here. His name's Jody Johnson. He's right there. He's teaching in critical writing. He's a great poet, great guy. You guys should meet him. He's here to meet you. We're all here to hang out. Thank you to Kelly Writer's House for hosting us. And let's go eat and cry and laugh in the other room. Yay, poetry. Yay, whenever we feel like it.